Hi, I'm Rachel, and this is my am reading video for Monday, September 20th, 2021. I sat here at my very last video and said my next video would be very close to a Friday reads, and here I am, posting on a Monday. To be fair, I guess I'm living up to the stuff I've been talking about in these last few videos as well, about the hecticness that I'm going through currently or recently. I had high holidays and the contract at work that I'm finishing up right now. It's been a bit of a week, really, and I still kind of feel a little tired and out of it, so maybe I'll be a little shorter and sweeter with this video as well, rather than rambling on and on. But that being said, because it has been a little over a week since I did a reading update, I have a fair amount of books to talk about, actually. I have been reading rather quickly. First, as always, I am starting these videos with a commentary on the latest short story I've read in this collection by Dorothy Parker. This is her complete stories collection that I've been reading story by story, inching through since May. So the story I'm on right now is A Terrible Day Tomorrow. It was published in 1928. I complained in my last video that I felt like Parker was going a little hard on the ladies, on her female characters in a lot of her stories in a row. This particular story, if anything, I think is a little more critical of the male character, so that's kind of fun. It's a story where a man and a woman are going to a speakeasy kind of late at night, and the premise that the man is starting out with, he's the one in this story who's the yappity, talkative one, is basically, we're only here for one drink and then we got to go home, and the man in particular, because he has a really busy day in the morning, and oh gosh, it's such a busy day. And so that's the premise, and of course it's about a character who's ridiculous and doesn't seem to know himself that well, because he keeps on talking and ordering more and more drinks and continuing to kind of feel sorry for himself, like, oh, but tomorrow I have such a busy day, it's so crazy. And like the woman at the beginning goes, oh, you poor lamb, and then she goes, oh yeah, you told me this, yeah, you told me this, and then finally by the end it's like, shut up already. Because he keeps on saying this, and he keeps on putting in this language of, we can't really stay long, but still, as more time goes on, you know, it's like, maybe you should loosen your clothes, because obviously, you know, it's hot in here and we are actually staying a while, and it's just, you know, one of those things. It almost feels like maybe the language gets more inebriated as time goes on, because the server is bringing them more and more drinks. And he even starts talking about, oh, well, maybe we should, you know, get on the wagon here and like stop drinking, and then a day like this would feel, you know, like a treat, because we would be able to comport ourselves well, because we wouldn't be alcoholics. So, you know, obviously stopping it for one drink wouldn't be a big deal. So there's that bit of, I guess, denial too. So I don't know, I guess it's a story about that sort of addiction and denial about impulses, I suppose. If I want to nitpick, I feel like the one sentence that doesn't work is the last one, or a fragment of one anyway, which is, and so on. And I felt like that's, you know, telling, not showing. Like, you know, the cadence of the story already told us that, Dorothy. You don't have to tell us that, but that's a very little nitpick. The first book I finished this more or less week is this one. This is The Wolf and the Woodsman by Reid. This is a secondary world fantasy book. It kind of straddles the line between YA and adult, which I think for some readers really works against it. The main character, Evike, reads like a YA protagonist. She is set on a journey at the beginning of the book. She is growing up in this small village called Kessie, which has been really subjugated. It's a pagan village, and they've been subjugated by the Christian-esque faith, the Patra faith, particularly with these holy order men, the Woodsman, who come every couple of years to take a wolf girl away. A wolf girl being what they call themselves. They are given powers by their god and wear wolf skins. Except Evike doesn't have any powers because she is a half-breed. Her mother conceived her with a Yehudi man, and Yehudi is this book stand-in for Judaism. So the Yehudi people live in the capital doing the sorts of jobs that medieval Jews often did in Christian kingdoms, like tax collecting and money lending and things that were sinful to the patrifaith. But anyway, that's basically what's going on. Evike is trumped up, and she's the woodsman asked for a seer, a prophesier, and the town decides they can get rid of Evike because she has no special power for them, and they don't want to get rid of their seer. So they, dress her up and pretend she's a seer and give her to the woodsman, and they are all on their way to the capital. But the woods they're traveling through are magical, spooky woods, and the much of the woodsmen who are her escort end up dying in that woods, and then it's down to her and the captain, who actually is also the prince of the land, who is in dire straits himself a little bit based on political machinations and genetics, heritage, based on who his mother is as well. He's kind of a half-breed too. That's the strength of this book, I think, is the world building. Really what she's going into, the plot goes into searching for a magical MacGuffin and to, keep the Captain Prince's zealous brother off the throne. And there's just a lot of cultural world building going on behind that about who the patrifaith is and the former paganism of the land that now the people in charge are trying to suppress. And so it's a commentary on myth-making and nationalism and the ways that the hegemony of nationalism is a bit of a lie, that, they're trying to pretend that the patrifaith is, the only way to be, part of this nation. But in order to do that, you have to suppress the pagans and the Yehudi people and all of that. So that's a lot of the main concerns of this book. And I thought that stuff came off really well, that it was well baked into the story, and the writing also, for the most part, was very strong. Maybe a little too much use of similes, but otherwise it was very strong and a very compelling story. And I will be talking about this in my next video when I compare it to another book that I read last week, The Light from the Midnight Stars by Rena Rosner. Both books are based off of medieval Hungary and deal with the Jewish faith and, one way or another. So I will talk more about this book coming up in the next few days, so stay tuned. The next book I have to talk about right now is this one. This is The Genius of Judaism by Bernard-Henri Levy. I held this up several months ago now when it came up in one of my page 112 tag videos, and I put it aside, but I particularly read it now or during high holidays and Yom Kippur because of its Jewish content, and I try to read nonfiction with Jewish content around the holidays. Bernard-Henri Levy is an activist and a political thinker in France. He's controversial, he's kind of on the left, but, well, a lot of leftists disagree with some of his beliefs on anti-Semitism in Israel and radical Islam and communism and that sort of stuff. And this is a book that's kind of a commentary on another French book called The Genius of Christianity and how integral it was to sort of building up Western society. And he argues in this book that Judaism also is sort of the forgotten bastion of building up a lot of Western ideas, or that's part of what he's talking about here. He also is doing a long, rambly treatise on contemporary and historical anti-Semitism. And the stuff that worked best for me is talking a lot about the myth of Jonah and the whale and Nineveh. I mean, the whale part is not actually what interests him. It's the idea of Jonah as a prophet and how he conducts himself in Nineveh, and the concern that that story actually has for this foreign and, written as sinful nation. And that goes into a lot of what... a metaphor for, he puts it as a metaphor for what he does in his social activism, and particularly his work in the Ukraine and Libya. It's very rambly and kind of grandstanding a lot of the time. I think a lot of people, and I agree, would say it's not necessarily all that well written. I think there's a lot of intriguing ideas in here. I liked a lot of what he said about revolutionary thought and its dangers, and likening conspiracy theories to magical thinking, which actually, in my mind, linked a lot of Enlightenment anti-Semitism to older blood libel anti-Semitism. So there was a lot of interesting stuff underneath, but it didn't really fully come together because of the writing style and the grandstanding and that sort of stuff. So there we go. And finally, this was actually the easiest book to breeze through in just a couple days. This is a memoir with recipes. Everything is Under Control by Phyllis Grant, which I read for my Mom and Auntie's book club, which met on Sunday evening over Zoom. So this is a book by Phyllis Grant, who is a intriguing character in her own right. She danced at Juilliard. She worked in four-star restaurants as a chef. Lots of interesting stuff in her past, and this is her sort of dashed off and yet memoir about her experiences at those places, and also being a mother, and particularly going in labor. And she likens it a little bit to the experiences of her own mother and grandmothers, but mostly it's a commentary on basically being out of control. So the title's supposed to be a bit ironic, because the life that she's leading in these dashed off vignettes is just very hectic and crazy, and holding herself to a really high standard, especially with her career choices and the level that she's at. And then her birth and relationship ones are also kind of fraught. She as one of the members of my book club said, she doesn't sugarcoat things like the pains of labor, and also some of the arguments and such between her and her partner, which to me felt a little almost dramatic. But I guess I guess in a way I feel like I'm being unfair, because I know that in my life I can also in the moment be dramatic about things sometimes, and I guess that's what she was saying in some of her arguments she was having with her partner. It's not like they were about to get divorced, but that it's just one of those things where sometimes you argue and you're just not ready to apologize yet, even when your own children are asking you to. So yeah, it was an interesting format for a book club, because I feel like a lot of book clubs, or especially this book club, we have kind of dashed off conversations where we talk a little bit about the book and then we go into themes and our own personal lives and that sort of stuff, or politics or something. So it's like we're not talking about a narrative in that sort of analytical way, at least consistently most of the time. So this works really well for that, because it's so dashed off that there really isn't a narrative. And it really lends itself well to, well, let's talk about this idea, and let's talk about that idea. And I think members of my club liked it a lot better than I did. Or I didn't dislike it, but it was sparse, and I feel like it didn't really amount to that much at the end. Because I guess I read for character and theme and that sort of stuff, and it just, especially character, really there wasn't a lot of meat on those bones. No pun intended, or that's an interesting juxtaposition, I guess, between the life of a dancer and the life of a chef and a foodie. But anyway, And in the end, there were some recipes, so I know, foodie people would definitely pick up this book too and like it. And, my sister is a foodie and she's a self-taught cook, really. And in fact, she was joining us from her kitchen where she was, rolling up lasagna rolls for dinner, of course. So it had that feeling. We were talking about this and I thought this could be like a great like morning show book, right? Because you could actually do the recipes on a segment. But anyway, that's what I thought about, like, for the medium, it's maybe a multimedia book, a good multimedia book in a way, because you could read it and do stuff with it like a cookbook. But it went over well with the book club. For me, I didn't quite like it as much as the group did, but it was fine, and it certainly was very easy to get through quickly, which I've been cramming in so much reading this week that really worked well for me. And now, next on the docket, I have this book. This is Suzy Bane by Douglas Stuart, which I believe is a book that takes place in 1980s Thatcher England, with a young man, perhaps a queer man, but he's a young boy, in fact. This story, I believe, taking care of his alcoholic mother. It was the winner of the 2020 Booker Prize, and right now it is in the finals for the 2021 BookTube Prize, which is why I am reading it as part of that ballot as an official judge. So the BookTube Prize was started a couple of years ago by Robert at Barter Hordes, wherein we judge the best in literary fiction, nonfiction, and next year translated fiction that was published in the US the year prior to this one. We start at the beginning of the year with a long list of 48 books each, and then through 4 rounds of judging, we whittle it down to 1 winner per division. And so we're in the final round now with 6 books left in each division. And as I said, I'm officially judging for the fiction division, so I can't say any more about this book. I have to zip my lips because we are all, as judges, quietly reading the books and ranking them without, being influenced by each other. And then in early October, after we've submitted our ballots, Robert will be announcing the winners. So that'll be exciting. I'm very much looking forward to that, even though I'm also very nervous too about getting all my books done, my ballot done before that. But anyway, I will link to more BookTube Prize information down below. So that about covers it for me now. I feel like I don't have much more to say. I've said it all. I'm still sort of, limping through to the finish line on this contract and trying to get back into the regular swing of things now that the high holidays are behind me. And I'm working on the BookTube Prize because that ballot is due soon. But I will be back here on this channel in the next few days, as I said earlier, to review The Wolf of the Woodsman and The Light of the Midnight Stars together to talk about their Jewish themes and their speculative Jewish themes in honor of SFF month for September. So stay tuned for that. I hope you are all having a good go of your reading as we slowly move into the next season. I certainly am noting that it's getting darker earlier and earlier here in the DC area, and we haven't even done the whole setting our clocks back thing yet, and it's still a couple months away. So anyway, I guess I am pretty pleased with myself because I had a pretty ambitious September reading goal of trying to get through 10 books this month, and none of them even being audiobooks, which usually gives me extra time that I wouldn't have to read, where, because I'm reading everything, I have to sit down and read everything, physically. And I'm getting through all of it, although I shouldn't pat myself on the back too much yet because I do have to finish up that BookTube Prize reading, as I've already said. But it's so far so good, trundling through, and hope you are all also trundling through as well. So thanks so much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time.